Allegiance, let's all stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Play ball. I have to say play ball. We do have a quorum. Has anybody had a chance to look at the minutes from last meeting?
Yep.
Does anybody have anything they need corrected on the minutes from last meeting?
38-year-old Michael DiPolito.
No.
Move to
Okay.
accept.
None? Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved. Bill.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Most minutes passed. Next thing on the agenda. New business. Hey, before we move on, well, it's not on the agenda, but can I take a moment? I'd like to take a moment just to recognize Gary. If you guys didn't know, my brother Gary passed away this weekend. We did not know until Tuesday, and he's been with our Parks Department, dedicated to our Parks Department for 25 years. I talked to Will about maybe doing something in the future, Will and Eric both. So please keep that in mind. If you have any good ideas, we'd like to acknowledge him and his dedication to our Parks Department. It's been a hard couple days. So thank you. Let me move on. I love that good curmudgeon old bear. Oh, come on. Master plan conversation. Will?
We have Austin here. He's got. We had the surveys. We had 504 total surveys. We worked pretty hard on that. The staff got free lunch today for doing the surveys. We set goals of each one doing 50 surveys. So, and we got all the results. It's a little brutal to read if you work here, but it's good stuff. So it's all things we know about, but Austin's going to kind of relay some of that and start pushing forward on the final document. So,
Is this good? So then, Tammy, you're online. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. Go ahead, Austin.
Okay. And apologize a little bit. My allergies this week have been terrible, so it's a little raspy up here.
Well, and that with the ash in the air from out west.
Yeah, I took allergy medicine this morning for the first time, I think in at least 8-9 years. Like my allergies have been fine. I'm like, okay, I give in, I submit. So, but thank you for having me here tonight. So I do have a lot of information to go over. So again, my name's Austin with Zec8 Insights out of Indianapolis, and I've been working with staff here on the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Kicked it off in March, and here we are in July, moving right along. And so this is kind of the check-in point where we have a lot of information. And honestly, I have even more information to go over tonight. So if you think I have a lot of info already, there is more, but I'm parsing it down a little bit, I promise. And so I do have time reserved at the end for questions, but honestly, if you have questions while we're going, just interrupt me, yell at me, raise your hand. It doesn't matter. This could be very much a conversation. It won't throw me off. And Tammy, I know that you're online, so it might be a little bit more of a challenge to interrupt me, but I don't know if there's like a raise hand button or just try
I'll
to.
just yell at you.
Yeah, there you go. Just talk over me, and it's fine. You all won't throw me off, I promise. And so the agenda for today, we're going to talk about the overview and process, the findings, which is the bulk of what we're going to do here, next steps, so that way you have a good idea about where we're going with this, and then again, any Q&A and discussion if we need to, or hopefully I answer all your questions before you even ask them. That'd be in a perfect world. Oh, what happens to my clicker? Project overview. You guys are keeping me on my toes. All right.
Green right now.
Broken down into 4 phases. It's the discovery phase, needs assessment phase, strategic development phase, and the master plan finalization. I put that star right there. I was going to put the whole, like you're in a mall, says you are here kind of roadmap, but that's where we are. We're after the first 2 phases here. So, and all the bullets are all the things that we've accomplished so far. So we've done data collection and review, so that's asking them for 1 million different documents and then reviewing them all and seeing where are we as a baseline, what kind of information do you have, do you not have, public input, the pedestrian trails plans, previous master plans, etc. Internal stakeholder engagement, so talking to staff, doing kind of a SWOT analysis, which I'll talk through here in a little bit. Population analysis, so the demographics and trends, where are we going in terms of our populace, what's it look like in terms of age segmentation, population numbers, growth, etc. Parkland inventory, a lot of that was probably captured in Layman and Layman's work when they updated the recreation impact fee. And I should have mentioned that at the beginning. We did this kind of in correlation with Layman and Layman, so Chuck has been kind of my support staff on this work, and I was kind of his support staff on the recreation impact fee, so I should have said that at the beginning. Program inventory, so actually looking at the programs and services, experiences. And then once we had all that information, we kind of go to the outside. All right, so we have a good foundation here of what we know from staff and documents and all that fun stuff. Now what does the community say? So that's when we did interviews, focus groups, user intercept surveys, which Will mentioned already, online community surveying, and then also benchmarking and gap analysis. So actually looking at how does Danville compare, so to speak, to other communities of the same size, similar size, and jurisdiction. So that's the majority of what we're talking about here today, is all that fun stuff that I just mentioned in these bullets. And then the next steps, when we get to the end of the presentation, is really what do we do with all this information and where are we going with it? So, findings, key takeaways. First, let's start with the discovery phase, and we'll go through a couple slides here for the first phase. So in the initial SWOT analysis, we identified strengths and weaknesses. Those are more internal, things that you can control, things that you have a little bit more of a bearing on. Opportunities and threats are a little bit more external to the organization, things that you can do if the stars align for the opportunities, or it might take some resources of some other people, and the threats are like, well, we need to take acknowledgement of them, but we may not be in direct control of those coming to fruition or not. So when we talked to staff, a lot of the strengths that kind of came out was facilities and amenities go above and beyond the town size. I started hearing that from day one. Like we're a small town, but we offer a lot of things. And even going around the system and seeing, yeah, there's an athletic club, there's an outdoor pool complex, there's sports fields, there's a really nice amphitheater, there's indoor recreation space, there's all these things. And I'm like, what's your population again? And I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot going on here for a town of your size. And I've been doing this the last 9 years and been fortunate enough to see a lot of different park systems across the country. And I'm drawing on even my own experiences too, saying, yeah, there's not a lot of smaller communities out there that offer just so many things, so many different things going on as you do. Staff responsiveness, that was a good strength about being attentive and being able to communicate with the public. We heard a lot about that. Good interworking relationships in between departments, from the town to them, between elected officials and staff. There was a good acknowledgement of relationships. Some of the weaknesses are challenges. A lot going on for the staffing level, so just, it's a double-edged sword. We have a lot of amenities and facilities, but we have a lot of amenities and facilities, and we'll get into that point a little bit more as we talk here. Enhancing the program diversity, so are we in the status quo? Are we just offering what we've always offered? How can we spice it up a little bit? What does the community really need? And hopefully through this process, we start answering those questions a little bit more too. And then, of course, matching support. So it's financial, which will be a part of our conversation here tonight too, but it's also time, staff, and all those other resources that go into it. And being matching those big plans and visions that leadership have, which a lot of stakeholders agree that they appreciate the vision and the plan that leadership has for Parks and Recreation Services. Opportunities, waste management property. So it's a specific point, but it's also a catch-all for system growth. Like the opportunities is basically parkland development, parkland acquisition, and system growth. Keeping up with community growth, as the population continues to expand. Trail system connectivity, we know that's a buzzword. You can't go into any community really in the country right now that in the top 3 needs is going to be walking and biking paths. Whether it's soft surface or hard surface is up to debate, but in the COVID time period really just made that even shine to the nth degree. That trails, connectivity, pathways, walking, connectivity, that is the huge focus for communities. Threats, not meeting community expectations, and so this, and again, part of our work is trying to identify what are the community's expectations. Aging infrastructure, so coming up with plan of attack for our operations and maintenance, and then financial opportunities that we may not be considering today. Now we'll start going into some of the fun metrics here. So this is just some of the analysis that we did. You don't need to be able to read everything on here. I know that the charts are here are small, but basically let's start on the top left. We know that the population is, whatever number you want to throw at the wall there, it's going up. There's going to be an increase. So if we look at the history, we look at the work done through the Recreation Impact Fee Study, we know that the number is, yes, 16,336. A lot of times I look at the percentage of growth because that's a very specific number, but I'm looking at percentage. You're going to grow. Your community's going to grow over the next 5 and 10, 15 years. We know that the age segments on the right-hand side, 2010's on the left, 2015's in the middle, 2019's on the right. We know that as the years go on, the important point to think here is those top 3 segments are increasing. Like there's aging going on in some of the age segments, but we also know that let's see, 16, almost a quarter of your population is still 14 and under. So it's still very important to not lose sight of the fact of younger experiences and those teenager experiences. And so we do this analysis, yes, to look at the aging trend, but it's really to highlight you also need to pay attention to all these other age segments. So what are we offering for all these other age segments in our community? And we also know that the average household size has been increasing over the last 10 years. And so we're getting more people into households too. And so it's important to look at young families with kids, older families with kids, and what do they want to do and how do they recreate a little bit differently than in the past. So what this is telling us is parkland acres, trail mileage, recreation amenities, if they don't increase, commensurate with the population, the town's level of service will decrease even if everything is well maintained, only because there's just physically more people coming in. So if more people are coming in and we don't do anything to add to it, our level of service just inherently goes down. We also know that increased populations will also have a reasonable expectation that park and facility usage will also increase, although to what level is maybe uncertain. But we know that actual park and facility usage will increase. And we know that that's going to lead to additional operations and maintenance or O&M expenses throughout the system. We know that capital improvement planning is going to be important for accounting for both new development but also reinvesting in existing infrastructure. And we know that financing, we have the recreation impact fee in place, we have food and beverage tax monies coming online. And so we're going to talk about that here a little bit, but it's also striving the importance of actually allocating these funding sources and dedicated funding sources to the appropriate uses for our park system to maintain what we have, but also with an eye towards growth. And in programming, so yes, I'm just throwing a map up here, but these are other things that we kind of looked at, was on average, the department offers nearly 50 programmatic opportunities. And so many of them have multiple events or multiple activities, multiple classes, but we're just talking about subjects, like up to 50 of them. Danville serves outside of Danville. That's what these maps are. So this is actually, of the last 3 years, where people have registered for programs, classes, activities, events. This is where people are coming from. And so over 12,000 users were served through Danville's programming from 2017 to 2019. 40 communities were represented, including Danville, but represented Avon, Indianapolis, Brownsburg, Plainfield, Coatesville. Those are the big ones. And so on the left-hand side is a kind of a zoomed out map. So that's why you see people from like Evansville, Louisville, Chicago area up there. They probably have ties to Danville or the Indianapolis area. That's why they're probably recreating. They're back for a special event, what have you. and the right-hand side is kind of zoomed in. The red pin is Danville, but you see that Danville, you serve a lot more than Danville residents. And so that's very important for us to note, because especially if the conversations go with like resident, non-resident rates, like, do we need those? And I know you have them, but it's like, it brings that question up again. We're serving a lot of people outside of our town limits as well. And then there's more information there, but again, I'm trying to condense a little bit of the research findings for you all. But then we moved into the needs assessment phase once we identified, okay, we get a little bit of understanding what's going on, what does the department offer, and et cetera. So then we started interviews and focus groups, park board, so you all were a part of that process. You got to talk to me. And we also talked to the town council, talked to the town manager. Then we held focus groups. So we talked to football, we talked to baseball, martial arts, Rotary, Optimist Club, Downtown Danville Partnership, Redevelopment Commission, amongst others. Other people got the invite to those meetings as well. And the things that we learned are kind of themed out there on the bottom left. Expanded park system, that's kind of the vision for what we have here in the next 5 years. We do 5-year planning, is we know that we want to focus on expanding the park system in terms of land and acreage. We know that there are some new amenities, perhaps, like a splash pad, dog park, trails, et cetera, that have some interest in our community, and we're going to test those and talk about them in a little bit in terms of the community surveying. We know that equitable access, both the parks and programming, so equitable in terms of age segment, equitable in terms of fee, equitable in terms of distance and connectivity, all encompassing of the words equitable is a vision for the next 5 years. Diverse programming, so how do we cater to that teen age segment? And how do we offer services that we're hitting on all of our demographics? And then we also know that we start talking about financing and saying that system funding is probably going to need to occur from multiple sources. And you already have some multiple sources in place, but we're going to talk about some other things here in this conversation too. So we took all that information, and then this is where I'm going to spend the bulk of the time here, is talk about the community survey. So we had 504 responses. It was open for about a month and just closed last week. It was mixed methods because it was online. I also went to one of the concert series on a Friday night and did some user intercept surveys with people out there. And then, as Will mentioned, staff actually went out and implemented surveys as well. So it was online, and it was also in person, and a lot of different methods. We ended up with about 81% resident responses, and again, highlighting the fact that we serve people outside of our town limits. 19% were non-residents that actually provided their opinions too. And then 200, and to the chagrin, I'll use that word, of Will, 291 open-ended comments recorded, and these are all about maintenance, unmet needs, kudos and positive feedback, to other feedback, et cetera. So that's stuff that we're still actually working through, but they're in some sort of format right now, but they could be themed out a little bit better as we move on. So I'm going to go through and just show you some of the results from the survey. There's an actual report that, did you say you did pass it out? But it can be made available, so that way you can look at the charts a little bit better and then spend some more time and digest it than what we're going to have here. But we asked them if they participated in programs over the last 12 months. 47% said yes, 53% said no, so it's really almost like half program users, half no program users. We understand COVID was in the last 12 months too, so we try to frame that in the mindset of like your average participation, because COVID threw a wrench into a lot of things. And those people that said yes, they did participate, how many did they participate in? Was it 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 plus? And you see the bulk of people have 1 to 3. Why we ask that question is it's good to understand what is your actual touch points that you have with the community. Some agencies will have a lot in maybe the 4 to 6 or the 7 plus range. So then you start talking about cross promotion and how do we actually cross promote our other experiences? Or we only have 1 to 2 or 3 chances with these folks. How do we make a lasting impression on these people, because we're only going to get them 1 or 2 times maybe for programs. Look me. There we go. And then also from the standpoint of land and facilities, we said, what have you used the most in the past 12 months? Ellis Park, hands down number 1. 95% of the people said we've gone to Ellis Park. the Gill Family Aquatic Center, Gary Aiken Community Park, which was very interesting to me because, again, as an outsider, local to the area, but as an outsider of Danville, going to Gary Aiken, it is a blank canvas. It really is like it's an undeveloped park. I mean, it's got a footprint that is ready for things and activation and all that, but I was really actually surprised how many people still just go use it. I was like, it's encouraging, but it's also like I was just maybe kind of thrown off a little bit about that. So when we talk about park development, Gary Aiken is probably going to be very, very important to kind of fill out and complete with amenities and experiences, et cetera. All the way down to Jack Willard Community Park and the community gardens. And also, just an interesting tidbit, Ellis Park, and depending on who you talk to, there's kind of an overwhelming majority of people, when they say Danville Parks and Recreation, it's synonymous with Ellis Park. And I mean that it's a good thing, but I also mean that almost in a little bit of a negative, that they don't realize there's other things than Ellis Park. And so I started picking up that pretty early on in interviews and focus groups, that there is, branding, communication, like all that is like there's more things than Ellis, but it's encouraging that Ellis has such a strong brand to the system. So again, just presenting both sides of that coin. We asked the fun question of barriers to using parks, recreation facilities more often. The top barriers: no time to participate, or I do not know it's being offered. Honestly, those are two of the big answers you get if you ask us anywhere across the country, because everybody's busy, everybody's competing for your time, and the kind of easy answer is, I don't know what's being offered.
Is that kind of a cop out? I don't know what's being offered. That's got to piss you off.
It's a little bit of a cop out answer, but if you look at percentages, so like there are some national statistics with that particular one. 29% is a little bit higher than, I'm going to talk about a statistically valid survey results nationally. That actually is a little higher than statistically valid survey results for that same question. So it might actually be a communication and branding, some challenges, but largely there is a bulk in there that is an easy answer, but that is actually above the national average in terms of percentage. So there is that. But one of the things that caught me was lack of parking was top on there too. And that was something that you see a lot checked off. And then I think there were some open-ended comments about that too, about actual parking, which might resonate more with the connectivity and the trail use and everything. So basically, it's the modality of getting to places is kind of important for folks, which makes sense. But then we asked preferred ways to learn. So social media, Facebook, email, town department website. But even with the website, there was open-ended feedback about, the information could be cleaner or clearer on the website, or a little bit more updated in terms of what's being pushed out on social media to what's on the website. Word of mouth, that's a double-edged sword, because it's a good thing that you want to have a buzz about your system, but it's also a challenge if people are just relying on other people's opinions and word of mouth. It's kind of a double-edged sword. But interesting was dedicated park system mobile app. There was some interesting feedback on the survey about that too, because, one person said, oh, I didn't know we had this, I'll check it out. You don't have it. It was basically saying, would you use it? But it's, but actually looking at what is the actual branding of our system in terms of a mobile app, or what's our, do we start breaking off into Ellis Park has its own Facebook page? It's all under the branch and the guise of the department, but it's like maybe now we start giving a personality to each one of our parks. Or we start highlighting Jack Willard Park. That's maybe a little bit lesser known park, but it's got a great playground, and it's got really updated, and it's got vibrant colors. It's got a lot of experiences going on there for it. So all things to consider, and I'm sure that's all things to consider for you. And so, but then we started going into importance. So most important park facility features: walking and biking trails, playgrounds, outdoor pools, natural areas, indoor pools, diamond fields. You see indoor recreation space, dog parks, all the way down to other and tennis courts. Other people start talking about bocce ball, start talking about kind of lawn game space. Again, it's a small amount, but it's some other ideas that people are looking for. We did the same thing with programs and services: adult fitness and wellness, aquatics, youth sports, summer camps, special events, programs for teens. So again, I think the first top five, you're kind of in that space. That's what you live in, which is good. And now it's like, well, how can we expand upon those? But also, how do we make sure we touch the, programs for teens, after-school programs, youth fitness and wellness, some of those programs that are kind of in that middle tier that maybe have a little bit more of a wider age segment appeal. But then we wanted to put all this stuff together. So this one's going to be a smaller chart, and I'll explain it and read it. But basically, okay, you have this list of facilities and amenities. You have this list of programs and services. Now I want you to pick your top 4 that you think are the most unmet need in the community. So that's the full laundry list here. That's why it's so small. But this is where you start seeing adult fitness and wellness, indoor pools, walking, biking trails, dog parks, separate spray ground splash pad from the aquatic center, and then indoor recreation space and aquatics. These are all kind of rise to the top. So really, it's a lot about indoor rec space, dog park as a new amenity, a separate splash pad, spray ground from the aquatic center, and then actually indoor pools where it's coming into play, where people, really the point was year-round swimming, year-round dedicated opportunities. And I will say, indoor aquatics is one of the most expensive amenities that any community can undertake, but it's not insurmountable if you have the right partnerships at the table. So in other words, there's communities that do that with the health system, there's communities that do that with the school system, there's communities that do that with the YMCA. There's a lot of different models out there that do that, but it's explaining to your community that we hear you, we understand it, but it's going to take more than just ourselves to make this a reality, if that is the direction that we kind of want to. It's a visionary type of forecast. But then we asked the question towards the end of the survey, okay, you've given us a lot of stuff. Now I'm going to give you $100. How would you actually spend it on these things? And if you start in the top left, baby blue, with almost $38, it's improving and maintaining what you already have. Then as you go counterclockwise, it's developing and constructing new recreation facilities, almost $10 less. But close to that is then acquiring and developing pathways and greenways. Then it's developing new sports fields, and then it's acquiring new parkland and open space. So in other words, there's a big draw to let's maintain and enhance what our current system is. But yes, we have an appetite for building new and building new pathways and trails, but we want to make sure that we don't lose sight of our system moving forward. And so that was really encouraging to see. And then overall, on a 5-point scale, give us your satisfaction level of the department. Over 4, that's good. So it was actually
That's what I was when I was. Sounds good.
It's good. It is good because.
actually, I want to say the national average is around in the 60 to 70 percentile, believe it or not. And so, and the question is asked like your satisfaction with the overall value that your household receives from the department or the town. So it's the value perception. And we asked this at the end of the survey because ideally they've just thought like for 5 or 10 minutes all the things in their mind. So now give us your value. You don't want to ask that at the beginning because then we're going to make them think about a whole bunch of different things as the survey progresses. So in addition to the surveying, I'm just going to show you a couple other charts. We also did some benchmarking, national benchmarking. So I'm going to show you, I think, 3 charts. They all have the same format. You have a metric on the left side. You have Danville bolded. You have all agencies. So the National Recreation and Park Association is our big, our industry professional organization. They do benchmarking every year that has agencies from all across the country upload. And these are all median numbers, so not the mean, but the median average numbers. All agencies is the median metric of parks and recreation agencies in the country. But then I can slice and dice it by jurisdictions serving less than 20,000 people, less than 10 FTEs or full-time equivalents, so staffing levels, agency budget between $500,000 and $1 million, and then I can even do a regional, Great Lakes Region Parks and Recreation Agencies. So this one is about kind of level of service. 2,100 residents per park is higher, is almost synonymous with the all agency level of service, but you see it's much higher than people your size. So So again, you're starting to see a little bit about, yeah, we offer a lot here. Acres of parkland per 1,000, you're actually not only above the jurisdictions your size, but also the all agencies. We're actually offering more parkland. Miles of trail, a little bit below all agencies, but definitely above the majority of agencies your size. And in this benchmarking, there's also, I couldn't fit it up here, it'd be way too small, but is actual individual facilities like indoor rec space, diamond fields, multipurpose fields, et cetera. Again, when you look at the breakdown, much higher than agencies your size. That's the key takeaway. Then we start looking at funding and financing. So annual operating expenditures per capita, operating expenditures per acre. Well, I'm going to start bringing it to, I'm going to draw you in a little bit here. So operating expenditures per acre. So the national average or median is about $7,500 an acre, whereas here it's $5,200 an acre. So this is where we start seeing some of the challenges with, we offer a lot, but then how are we operationally supporting what it is that we're offering? And now this is where we're starting to see a little bit of a lower metric kind of help kind of support that story.
Yeah, but you don't put in there, what's the efficiency? I mean, money spent isn't necessarily equating to efficiency.
Right, yeah. This has nothing to do with efficiency, it has nothing to do with the standards, level of care,
These guys are
et
just doing a
cetera.
hell of a job is what it could mean.
Exactly. And then revenues per capita, but this is where you start going the other side, and this is the story that between this slide and the next slide we're going to get into more, is you generate program fees and you generate money, revenues off of people, and it's more so than the national average, and especially more so than agencies your size, which is a kudos, because you're offering a lot more than other agencies. But we also know that revenue as a percentage of operating budget is also, commensurate with that, it's higher. So you have a higher cost recovery, you have a higher return on that. But where it kind of gets inverted is on this. Most park agencies have much more of a percentage being funded from the general fund tax support, as opposed to relying on your own user fees. User fees are they help augment and support, and one of those in the COVID time period really kind of stressed that if you have no people, you have no revenue because the people aren't there. And so there's actually some discussions going on across the country, and in our NRPA conference in the fall, we actually have folks from Carmel Clay giving some presentations talking about, well, we've been pushing cost recovery for so long. Is it still the end-all be-all? Because if we take the people away, well, we didn't really have any money. And so it's hard. So this is the delicate balance and conversation that we need to have, is like, how do we keep funding ourselves operationally? And then also goes into the question, so if we produce revenues off of facilities and off of our user fees, how much can be retained as a department, or how much can be retained back into the facilities?
I wonder,
Yeah.
you have Great Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
So we're more in line with the Great Lakes as far as the,
Yes.
if you look at the, bring it up, but
Right.
if you go in and look at the map of the United States, you go the blue and the red.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with that, right? So it looks kind of like the big city versus,
Oh, yeah, yeah. And there's all, and,
I think that's kind of cool.
yeah. And in that metric, Great Lakes, I mean, that's everything from,
I think that's really,
Chicago Park District that, has Soldier Field down to Danville, Indiana. So, yeah. And it's a great thing that you all have created as a town. The fact that you have so many experiences and you're able to help support yourselves, but it's talking about that as a mindset for the future with more impending growth, and we have so much infrastructure that needs to be maintained operationally. This is where I feel like we might need to start having a conversation of, like the train station, for example. When people rent that, is there a conduit to where we could put a percentage or a small nominal fee on there that's a capital improvement fee that stays within that site? Because research shows people will pay a little bit more for things that they know it's going to be reinvested into that. Yeah.
Along with that too is some of the restrictions we have on things like the funds that come in from the train station. They go back into paying. They don't go back into the facility. So, and the way some of the funds are worked, we can't use non-reverting funds for other items. So the problem is, those items start falling apart, and we don't have any money to fix them. We may be DAC rich, but all that money has to go back into the DAC. So not having those funds to maintain, and you'll see in some of those surveys, the problem areas, we know they're problem areas too, but we don't have any funds to fix them. You know, and that's where Austin was coming up with ideas, and I like that idea of there's a percentage that goes back into a savings that we can use to upgrade the bathrooms, because we're having to do it with staff because we have no money. So that just kind of highlighting what he was saying there. It's
Yeah, and another support metric for you all as as you advocate for the department, the federal government about 15 years ago, they started producing standards called the Whitestone manuals that actually came out with what should you be putting back into your system based on the total asset value. So like if you're minus land, we all know that there's a lot of money that goes into land, and that's kind of a misnomer. People see parks and you're like, well, how much maintenance? Just there's a lot that goes underground. There's a lot that land is expensive, but just facilities. So think of the DAC, think of the building we're in, think of the playgrounds, think of everything. It's 3 to 5% of your asset inventory's total value should be put back in annually in terms of operations and maintenance. That's kind of a best practice range that actually they started putting that out there. So that's a little bit of a ballpark. Now, it doesn't take into consideration what the current life cycle is, the current replacement values, all that, but just in generalities, that's a goal that you want to start shooting for, is 3 to 5% of your total asset value needs to be reinvested into the system. So the implications, I have a couple slides here. Danville maintains a high level of service, however, this will inherently decrease as population grows. But that's just a statement of fact, but we can do things to change that. There's an inherent challenge to relying on earned generated income, especially if not all of it can be retained by the department. So it's a positive, but there's an inherent challenge that's with that, and that's what Will was just describing. FTE aligns more closely with agencies similar in size, but Danville offers more, so in theory, you're technically a little bit more stretched, more than ideal to maintain the current system as opposed to some of those other organizations. Are resident, non-resident rates priced appropriately? That's kind of a rhetorical question. I don't have an answer to that right now. But that's an implication. Like, we are serving so many non-residents, so then it begs the question, do we have that in alignment? Or like I did this in a community in Washington where 70% of their field users were actually non-residents. They were 30%. So then it was like, wow, we really need to work on the user fees for that, because if 70% of your use is that, and that's how you prioritize, and it's fine, that's great, but they're non-residents. So we need to make sure that we're capturing that, because we're displacing residents. Ellis Park is synonymous with park system. That's what I mentioned earlier. Community wants to see more investment for the current system and then developing new, can't type. Most important park facility features, trails, playgrounds, pools, both indoor and outdoor, natural areas. Most important program services, adult fitness, aquatics, youth sports, summer camps, special events.
Wait a minute.
Oh, yep.
Could you go, yeah. It almost seems this is just a question.
Yeah.
If one of the most important park facility features is not mentioned the DAC, yet the most important program services is adult fitness.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Where am I?
No.
Does that seem like a?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily synonymous with unmet need, or we need to do this like doubly. We don't want to lose sight of this, and we want to make sure that it's offered and it's a priority. So it's a little bit more of that and a little bit less of the unmet need, perhaps. That's why I didn't put up that unmet need bullet, but you go back to that slide. Indoor recreation isn't like in the top 4, it's down there a little bit more. It's not saying we need more of the DAC, perhaps. It's saying we don't want to lose sight of the fact that that's being offered. So it's very important to people. There's a desire to see increased teen programming. And if you were to talk about new expanded facility space, indoor pool, dog parks, playground, splash pad, and then finally increased indoor recreation space, but that's also gymnasium space. So it's not just the DAC. There's a lot of love and interest for basketball, both indoor and outdoor, but court space. So gym space, rental space, multi-purpose space. That's the idea that your community has kind of thrown out there. So next steps, moving towards this. We take all this information, we take your feedback, we take feedback
I
from
wanna
everybody
make
else.
sure- maybe
Yeah.
I'm asking too many questions. I'm
No.
trying to understand this. If I see the outdoor basketball, I
Mm-hmm.
hear that, we've talked about that, but, I mean, we've got a pretty cool gym here in this Bostic gym. It's part of the DAC.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, everybody doesn't have that, do they?
Yeah, and they're not disqualifying that. They're saying that
It's not enough.
they would like more of it.
Like, we could book that out without even having open gym all year.
Okay, thank you.
There's a
You gotta start
huge
going to some of
need.
these other towns. Huge.
Can I interject? Sorry. You talked about our youth and how we're looking at them and all that, but we also can't ignore our baby boomers. That is a huge part of our population. My dad doesn't live in the town of Danville, but he lives just outside, and he will drive to Plainfield just for indoor walking and indoor socializing with other seniors. So I can't wait to look at your packet because I want to see what your thoughts are for our baby boomers, our seniors.
Yes, that's actually a good point. I actually I put some notes together for myself here. I actually skipped over that one. Here's one along with those lines. So the number of residents who also report having some sort of a disability is 39% of the 64-year-olds and older population have a disability, and that has a resounding influence on the ADA improvements and accessible programming. Therapeutic recreation is a focus more and more in parks and recreation systems across the country, and they're providing that. And then again, just in general, baby boomers and older populations is what are we doing for those all age segment appeal? Because older folks, national trends show that it's multi-generational experiences. So it is the walking and biking paths, but it also is places that they can take their grandchildren and recreate. So it's the playgrounds, the communal spaces. There's a big trend going along right now, multi-generational indoor community centers. So actually putting the words multi-generation into it and other experiences, because you talk to a lot of older folks and they said, no, I don't mind recreating with the younger folks. And oddly enough, you talk to some of the younger folks, they're like, I don't mind recreating with the older folks. It's just sometimes we have this perception that, we want to stay separate, but it's we want to blend, and it's a multi-generational approach that we want to take to that. So an idea then is to look at something like the DAC, and I'm just throwing this out there, but then you do a little checklist and say, of the DAC, what kind of age segment appeal do we have with some of these amenities? Or then you go into physical ADA assessments and say, how accessible is our actual facilities? And is there shade in our parks? Is there, benches? Is there there's way more than that seniors utilize, but it's the starting with the easy stuff of just kind of taking a self-assessment.
Very good.
Yeah. And so what we do then is we take more feedback, and then we start checking back in again with the mission, vision, core values, the department in light of this information. Then we start developing an action plan. So basically, what are the big strategies and what are the individual tactics that we need to start working on? What is a short-term goal? What's a midterm goal? What's a visionary long-term goal? I'm just going to throw this out there. Like, there's many communities like aquatics. Honestly, I'm not saying to wait this long, but some wait like 5, 10, 15 years of like studying aquatics to say, is it really a need? And it's like, okay, we get it. It's a need now, but any facility like that anyway, or any major improvement, it takes years to develop these things. And so we just need to be mindful of what makes sense. Because again, we're planning for a 5-year planning period, but we don't want to lose sight of the things that will go beyond 5 years, but we want to include in this master plan. So that way when you go and refresh and update it, you're not starting from scratch every time when you do these type of work. Then we put together a final a draft report. We do some presentations, and then we ultimately submit it to the Indiana Department of Natural Resources to review it, and that they provide comments and edits, and then we need their approval on it too, because that makes it eligible for land and water conservation funding grants. You have to have a 5-year master plan on file with the DNR. So we need your approval, but we also need the DNR's approval. So we need 2 approvals. And that's the final work. And so that's, again, because when it comes to outdoor recreation funding and matching funds and such like that, the DNR want to make sure that we have at least a skeleton in place of what they believe are, or what they suggest are like the core planning tenets, like did you do stakeholder input? Did you talk about natural resources? Do you have a vision? Do you have a capital projects list? Do you have a plan of attack? Because we don't want to just give you money and say, good luck. We want you to demonstrate you have a plan of how you're going to use your money. So any other questions, discussion? And I know everything I said today, you don't have any paper in front of you to actually read through anything, but it's kind of the overall what's available to us as we start winnowing the information down.
You talked about the
Yeah.
need for teen programs. Do you have suggestions or things you see other places for that age group?
Yeah, and so this one is kind of interesting because I follow the the NRPA national forums, and actually the last couple of weeks that's been trending is teen programs, and I've been watching it like every morning and I've been reading it. So there's some outdoor activities that people have been doing that it might go against your park ordinance, however it's written, but it's like actually activating the parks at night. So actually going and doing events at night in your parks is popular for teens. Actually creating teen spaces and hangouts, because I even did focus groups with, it was 60 eighth graders a couple years ago, and the director was really amped up to say, we're going to do esports, we're going to do gaming, they're going to be awesome, they're going to be into this. Not anybody in that room wanted to do esports or gaming. It was kind of interesting. I was like, well, that got debunked. And I said, well, what do you want? They go, we want a place to gather with our friends, because teenagers it's really more about the social network of doing recreation. So sometimes it's hard to physically do programs for them unless it's like event-based or fun-based, but it's really about creating the spaces. So I think it's actually more about the amenities you put in parks and how you actually activate those then through events, or you actually have more indoor recreation space that you kind of coordinate with that. So that's somewhere where the trends are going for teenagers.
What we see in Ellis Park is, I mean, half the time at the basketball courts, they aren't playing basketball, they're hanging out. You know, and we don't plan our spaces that way. And Austin brought that up. I was like, oh my gosh, that's our teenage population. They want a place to hang out. They may recreate in some of those areas, but really they want a commons. They want like a mall commons. You know, if we could find some way to come up with something like that, I think it would be awesome, especially at Ellis Park, because it's walkable. So many people are walking there. So, you know, I've got that in my brain. So that one I'm definitely going to be working on.
Yeah, but as long as it definitely doesn't turn into another skate park like we had.
Yeah, I agree.
It's got to be where it can be monitored quickly.
I have a question, and I'm a DAC junkie, and I'm always trying to figure out how we can make it better. And one of the biggest things, and I didn't see it up there, and when I filled out the questionnaire, I put on there the women's restrooms. I have a former colleague
It's all in the open-ended.
who she found out I'm on the park board, so now she's bugging me all the time. But it's horrible. And she says she tries to take there's no hot water there, and she's not. And so I look around, and I would say that the number of women to men has gradually. The percentage of men is 90%. It's 9-1. It's 9-1. And so I think but did that come up?
Yes.
Oh, it did. I just didn't see it in there.
Well, there's 200 some odd open-ended comments.
It just seems like
Rest-
that's. It just seems like
reading.
if we should do anything that's kind of right there and right in front of us. and
Restrooms
kinda
in general
easy.
across the system were one of the most recurring things in general. But then there's a lot of specific comments from DAC users that filled out the survey to restrooms, the stairwell, all that stuff. And so that came up a lot. It just wasn't a specific quantifiable chart question, but it's in a qualitative themed open-ended question. It's all there. Yeah.
I just.
Plus, he's kind of doing like.
Yeah. Again, there's 200 and some odd open-ended responses. You'll see, and it's actually some of the, and I can code them more, but there's two open-ended questions. One was, are there any maintenance or operational issues that you have? And then describe which facility. So you'll see a big chart in there that says like, here's comments just about all parks in general or general comments. Then it's gonna be like, I did an alphabetical order, so I'm gonna forget them, but like DAC, then like the aquatic center to like Jack Willard to like the train station, like here's the comments specific to that. And then at the end, they're able to say, do you have any other just additional feedback for the good of the order? And you'll see them based on either maintenance issues or like kudos positive feedback issues. I broke them into those two categories. Again, I can theme them more. I started, one is larger than the other, but hey, it's, when you ask people questions, you're gonna get more people that have, problems than you are, like, cause if people are happy, they're more quiet. It's a nature.
Problems that we have on our list. It's just the funds and staffing to try to tackle them.
As a board, being armed with a little bit more information about like national trends or like the financial makeup and being the advocates of that, I think this kind of plan is pushing towards being more of an operational financial conduit for the system, just because you're going to grow, and we all know that. And we can beat that dead horse forever. You're going to grow. It's just
Don't say that at a town meeting.
I know, but it's how are we going to maintain what we currently have, but also want to bring in some new experiences, because we all want to do that. We all want to bring some things, but we need to take care of what it is we have. Otherwise, I worked in plenty of communities that, honestly, when we start talking about building something new, I can't say the phrase they said to me because but it's like we don't even trust them, because how can we build something new when we can't even take care of X, Y, Z or insert? I've heard that so many times, and so you start losing the trust of your community. So I'm not saying, not foreshadowing that, but I'm just saying it does happen, and I've seen it plenty, and it's just kind of it gets you. But yeah, so my job is to arm you with a bunch of information that you have at your disposal, and then our job is to winnow it down and create our action plan for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Boy, that's a lot of information. I can't wait to dive into the presentation and look at it.
Yeah, presentation will be more, and then again, over the next, really the next 2 months, this is where the rubber hits the road. This is where we push everything together. So you'll have a lot more to react to over the next month or so.
Okay.
So, thank
Does
you.
anybody on the board have any more questions for Austin? Any more comments? Austin, we are very grateful for the presentation you came in and gave today. What a well of information.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being such an attentive audience, so appreciate it.
Thank you, Austin. Very good,
Thank
very nice
you.
job.
Thank you.
Okay. Phew. Okay. Let me find the agenda again.
Austin, you're free to go too if you got
Yeah.
a drive ahead of you.
See you, Austin. Thank you.
So next on the agenda and new business is community engagement coordinator.
So we have hired a community engagement coordinator, Madison Henderson over here. So very important for her to be at this meeting. A lot of those things that we've talked about are the reasons why we hired Madison. So having that data will be really good for you moving forward. But yeah, great interview process. Madison knocked it out. She started on Monday. I'm going to get her feet wet a little bit, kind of learning about people and stuff, learning about parks, and hopefully, in the next month, you'll really start to see the impact of that hire. So, Madison, do you have anything?
Does she
All right.
report to you in that capacity?
Yeah.
Eric,
Yes.
turn the camera so I can see Madison. Hi, Madison. Thank you. Welcome to the crew. Now I'm all side goggling, Eric. I don't know what you're doing to me. I'm getting vertigo.
Tipping us back and forth.
It's okay. So we're moving on. Did anybody have any questions or comments for Madison? Hearing none, let's move on to locker rooms.
So after our last meeting, we kind of went back and I pulled out, we do have an actual estimate from McGovern Construction. I reached back out to him too, and we're going to meet again and do some updating, because when we first got this quote, it was prior to us taking down the wall, so there's a lot of other features in there. But I'd like to get a couple of quotes, probably like 3 quotes before we really act on anything. But I've been pretty conservative on the budget this year. So I think if we rolled towards the end of the year, we could maybe use this year's budget and next year's and maybe get something done. So I'm going to keep working on that, but I wanted you guys to have that estimate so that you can kind of look through it. The hardest part about this building is its age and the surprises that come with it. I mean, he's got a contingency in here of $30,000 for surprises, so that's quite a bit. But it looks around that $100,000 mark, somewhere around there. Yeah, for both of them. But I think we can buy that down by doing some of the work ourselves, the tiles and maybe the painting and stuff like that. But the core is really the restroom and the shower facilities. And I think we look to maybe negotiate with the town and say, can we have our own hot water heater? Because the reliability of their system is just it's not working. And when you have to wait 30 minutes to get hot water for a shower, you just don't do it, or you leave and find a place
that's
where.
That's what she's told me.
Yeah.
Or go elsewhere.
Yeah. And we don't want that to be the case for sure. We're lucky to have the facility, but, like we're talking about there, this one we actually have dollars where we can use back into it. And we've been doing that, but it's time to hit some of those big ticket items, the HVAC and the restrooms are pretty high on the list. Because like you were saying, David, it sets a tone when you go to the restrooms. It just does. So, some people,
that's the only thing. I think it affects women more than it affects men.
Yeah.
Men are more, but women, they don't want to go to, that place is terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's just 1970s inside for sure. Yeah. I mean, even the men's restroom side, the way they put the toilet, you have to scooch in sideways and your head's almost on the wall.
We're talking about tearing down walls and doing this right.
Yeah,
correct?
That's why the dollar amount is
that doesn't
huge.
sound that bad to me, considering you're going to do both. I mean, I don't know. That just doesn't seem that bad to me.
Yeah. And it's a basic. It's not, grandioso or anything, but
it's functional, hot water.
And shower stalls with changing room next to it, so you don't have to change out in front of everyone. The modern.
I mean, if you talk to other women to get input on this, I mean, now that you've got Madison on the staff, I mean, men don't know. You talk to women, they'll tell you, right? Yeah. I mean, are you getting input from women about what the women's restroom should be like?
I've been a member of quite a few
so you've seen
clubs, and no one has what we have, but that's, we're lucky to have what we have, because we did take it over. It was a school.
Right.
But yeah, you got to have a stall for showers. You have a secondary stall for changing.
Okay.
And then our lockers are okay, but that may be something we look at.
Okay.
If we're doing the rest of it, might as well do it all if the difference is not that much. So, but I think we can do it. It's just a matter of,
as a low water mark, and then I'll shut up. I'd like to know the percentage of women and men.
Yeah, I mean, we can find that.
As of today, I'm sure
we
you
can
got
find that real quick.
And let's recount that, and then let's see how does that improve, or how does it change? As the restrooms are finished. I would be shocked if we don't improve our percentage a little bit.
Yeah, and seasonally, that facility is very seasonally too. Like it seems like the women actually drop off more than the men during the summer. I don't know what that trend is, but it just is. Yeah, that could be. But I'm sure our restrooms are not helping that.
Okay.
You wonder how many people really shower at the gym now, though, because
Yeah,
athletics or the aquatic center's bathrooms are disgusting too. I mean,
yeah,
makes
that's
me not want to go there. I mean, we don't
There you
ever
go.
go in there.
that was my biggest
We have
problem.
so many bad bathrooms. Yeah.
I know. Well, and one of the problems there,
Amen.
they built a new it was prior to me, 2005, actually all these restrooms are prior to me. 2005, they nixed the new pool house, right? And they built the pool side. Well, the problem is your first opinion of our facility is where you enter.
Right.
And it's like you enter sideways and then you come in and you go straight into the bathroom, which is 1970. I mean, you need to enter the facility first and then go to the bathroom if you need to. There's just so many things I would change with that building. And we do have in our priority projects list every single thing we're talking about.
Right.
We know they're problems, but we don't have the funds to fix most of them. Fortunately, this is one we have the funds to fix. So maybe we set the tone here. It's kind of set, this is our standard.
Nice.
And then really every 5 years, we probably need to be remodeling a bathroom. That would help a lot with it, is every 5 years remodel a bathroom. We have 7 bathrooms, so, over time, we would rotate through enough, because we could fresh coat most of them, and it's just like, the ones on the side of the pool too, they haven't been painted since the beginning. They painted them white, which is the worst color we should ever paint a bathroom, is white. No
Yep.
flooring, it's concrete floors, wood roof. But it is what it is. We'll chip away at it. So I hope to have more options for you here coming in the near future with that one.
Thank you. Any more questions about the locker rooms or comments? Hearing none, let's move on to potential parking lot locations.
So I did put some notes there in your packet with the parking layouts. So the only thing, so we had talked about some different options with the next to the pickleball, around Leedy and Helton as options as well. So Barry is getting me pricing on the per square foot, so I can map them out. I've got the per square foot on what I think they are. So we'll push forward on that too. But you're looking at each one of these projects over $100,000. Yeah, because we'll have to drag them out, put down stone, and then put back the base after. So a lot more expensive than trails because you have to have more asphalt involved. So, and these are minimal things too. And I'm hoping to maybe talk with Public Works. Maybe we can figure out a way to get on their paving schedule, and we could do the base, and they could do the paving, as part of their projects. 'Cause that may be the only way we ever get it.
Yeah.
$1,000 is a lot.
How many spaces does that buy us?
So on the pickleball courts, I think it was 32. And then really around some of these are almost kind of endless because you could go on a little bit further than you wanted to. But around Leedy and Helton, there's somewhere around 24
But,
spaces on each side.
well, Lady and Helton, aren't you planning on flipping those fields?
Yeah, but there's still room on the outside. We're going 250 for the fence, so there's still plenty of room to put parking immediately off of the road. So it'd be
Okay.
slanted parking along the road, pretty much where everyone parks right now.
But where they're parking now, nobody's hitting a ball towards them.
Yeah, that is true, but a lot of fields you go to, they actually hit the balls towards where you park.
I'm not gonna park there. Go ahead.
Yeah. And they're parking there now for the most part too, and they are hitting balls at them without a fence.
Yeah.
So, and we
I
could
just-
raise the back fence up higher too if we wanted to.
I just know that when I drive through there it's just ridiculous how much of our green space we have people parking on.
Yeah.
And we've got to figure something out for them. I mean, I love the fact that everybody's there and everybody's using the facility, but we have to find something or they're going to tear up what's pretty about our park.
Well, and I was actually talking to Austin about this too, and his thoughts and my thoughts were kind of aligning, and maybe we need another park for sports. Because if you pulled baseball out of Ellis Park, it would solve every problem you had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a hard one to pull out, you know, with the history and stuff. I mean, you can still keep Barnett, but the other stuff, I mean, you probably could. So maybe we save in our impact fee, maybe we save to buy land for another park just dedicated for baseball. You know, because we're kind of solving our football problem, you know, by going up and using Aiken. Now you could solve the baseball issue, and then you spread out your crowds, which that's the problem we have now is we got train station, pickleball, we got shelter houses, we got playscape, we got pool. So we have so many things going on that we're creating our own problem, where if we pull some things out and put them in a couple other areas, maybe some new parks or something, that helps pull some of that crowd away. I know it's hard to think of it that way, but
No, it's not.
we almost have to, because if you think about all these new houses coming, where are they going to play baseball? Where are they going
Yeah.
to play football?
That seems like what everybody else has done around us. They've all kind of dedicated, they've got dedicated sporting parks.
And we could look at it as, hey, baseball, here's $1. You know, charge them $1. You maintain your own facility. But if you don't maintain it, we take it back. But that way, they maintain it, and then we take our maintenance, you know, issues away from there as well. You know, and I have both sides to that because I want to keep it nice if we put something nice out there. And
Yeah.
volunteers aren't always the best way to do that with the turnover rate there. I mean, we can kind of see from football, once we build this thing, will they take care of it? Football's always been really good about, they're really organized. And then baseball, they kind of got sandlot fields, so it's like, do I put money into it? Do I not? And then the problem is we get stuck with I don't put money into it. And so now we have to figure out, oh, well, we don't have any money to build the fields that you guys put in, but we have to maintain them when you're not there. You know, so, and a lot of that
Yeah.
is having fencing all around the fields too. If you had fencing all around the fields, they'd be way easier to maintain.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Those are going to be some hard decisions in the future, but I will get you numbers. Numbers of spaces, and I'll get you dollars for all three of those options.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments on potential parking lot locations? Hearing none, we move to pickleball court upgrade.
Okay, so we did receive a sponsorship, so we can move forward with that project. I'm kind of looking forward for a blessing to move forward. I know we had already talked about it, but I have the money now, so, and they don't know yet, so I'm going to kind of surprise them. So it should be pretty cool. So,
Who's the sponsor?
it's actually anonymous. So
Oh,
they
please.
asked. Yeah. I had one that way before too, though. So, and it's a good thing for sure. So we can do that upgrade that we wanted to do. So I'm going to get pricing and estimates on the length of time it's going to take, but we'll probably do some sort of kind of surprise for them because, you know, they're
Well, they
always
better
talking
not
about it.
expect us to name it after them, man.
But we've been helping them out too, and they're pretty good. They always want more, so just be prepared for the next item from them.
So where's this at? Which one?
That would be, so I've got the courts on one of those
Yeah,
sheets
it's
there.
The one getting rid of the volleyball court.
Yeah, we had already actually painted the lines for the next one there, right next to it, so on the west side. It's
I
pretty
see.
much no one uses anything on the west side. And so we are gonna get some space in the new Miles property. It may be something to where we look at, you know, do we turn, if we get more action on the pickleball, do we move tennis maybe out to the new facility? I don't know. We'll look at it and see, but
I've actually seen people playing tennis.
yeah, I know. I've seen tennis out there too, so it's just great to see people out there. I mean, that right now is maybe the most heavily used facility we have, besides the
Yeah,
DAC.
pickleball's packed.
I think people are just glad to be out again, and I'm glad our facilities are there for them. Any questions about pickleball court upgrade? Any comments? Hearing none, let's move on to old business, master plan update we talked about above. Can we move on to concerts, Will?
Yep, I just update on the concerts. They have everything secured with the Kentucky Headhunters. That should be the next one. I think it's on the 7th of August. Talked to Shannon Shervin on August 22nd or 21st. I can't remember off the top of my head. Levi Riggs, and we're working with them too. Yeah, we have ours on August 13th, the Melon Cougar. Trying to think. Yeah, I mean, everything's just pumping along. We've had a lot of good hits out there. The grass is growing in. It's looking really nice. So, I mean, that was a great move. I mean, that's one nice facility we have out there. So,
I love seeing everybody there.
yeah.
I can't wait for our phase 2. Any questions on concerts, concerns? Okay, we'll move on to pool update.
I didn't really have a lot on that one. You know, we're kind of chugging through midway season, almost towards the end here. Numbers look good. I mean, they look pretty normal seasons. So hopefully next meeting I should have the year-end numbers by then. I think I'll have them by then. So we'll be able to see how we did this season. But they're trending in the right ways. A lot of our revenue is trending in the right way, so that makes me feel a lot better because after last year, just getting back to normal is important for sure.
Any comments or questions about the pool update? Hearing none, we'll move to football tower.
Football tower, no real news on that one. That we met with football. They have the letter now. They're going after some contractors. I'm going after some contractors. Probably start hitting it hard in the next week. Hoping to move ground probably. I'm working with football on that because they still are using the space up there. So depends on how intrusive it's going to be. But we may move ground next month. So.
Okay. Any questions about the tower? Any comments?
We get feedback from the league football there.
Or
Feedback, is that liking it up there or not?
yeah, I mean they were pretty proactive in the move actually because they're excited about being able to host tournaments and having their own bathroom in their facility. You know, it's the little things. They are nervous about stuff, and you know, it's different working. You know, they working on the trust relationship with us too. So we're moving forward on it though. I'm pretty happy, and they got good leadership there, so that helps a lot. But and they're raising funds, so that's awesome. So it's time for us to start doing our side.
Yep. Any more comments? Okay, let's move on to awnings and windows.
Awning, still moving forward on that. Windows, they should actually be coming next month. So I think he gave us like 6 to 8 months or something before he could get them in. And I think we're hitting that 8th month in August. So I'll probably reach out to him and double check.
Anybody have any questions on awnings and windows? Any comments? Hearing none, let's move on. Do we need to do a DAC update or?
We're pretty good there.
Okay, let's move to financials year to date.
Financials, do you want to throw those financials up there for me? I don't have the financials on there. I forgot to attach them.
Slacker.
Yeah, I was waiting on the treasurer's office, and I just sent it out anyways. There's nothing major. You know, it's the end of June, so we're 6 months. We're halfway through. With that, the major things I wanted to talk about would be really on the fitness center side. So on our revenue, we are halfway in, and we're halfway on what I projected, which our projections are the same as they were projected for 2020 prior to COVID. So that makes me feel like we're back on track, which makes me feel really good because I was nervous on, you know, how long it was going to take us to get back because last year was very rough. So I'm super excited about that. The Winterland revenue's in there too. So if you look at the Winterland revenue, keep going. Down in there. So we had, I think when I gave the report to you guys on the totals, I think we were up like 30%. We got a check for $65,000. So we're doing really well. About 40 was reimbursement for expenses and stuff because we bought a display, but it was a really good year. Waiting on that archway to come back in too. So we already paid for that, but yeah, that's the right page. There's 65 year to date. YTD. Keep going. There you go. Yeah. So that's the most we've ever had by far, like times two. So I'm hoping for another great year for Winterland. We have some things planned, but we may have to dial those back. Gary was a pretty integral part in Winterland, so that's going to be a hard one for sure to get back to where we were. So we may dial back our plans on that one, but we're still putting in some new stuff. It's just maybe not. There was a walkable area we were going to do. We were going to deck out the pickleball courts and everything and make that walkable space. It still may be possible, but I'm doubting that's going to happen this year now. So, and yeah, everything else we're pretty much right at 50% on most of our items, and that's pretty much it. You know, I really want to do that restroom project at the DAC. So,
Okay. Anybody have any questions about the year to date? Any comments? I want to thank everybody for putting up with me being there through the web. I had a biopsy on my neck this afternoon, and anesthesia really had fun with me. So I woke up literally 10 minutes before the meeting. Good to see everybody there. Let's have a motion to adjourn this sucker.
Before we adjourn, I
Oh,
think
yeah, Bill. Sorry.
Since I was called out by name for being late on the last minute.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. No
If I'm
kidding.
gonna get called out.
It will be noted. It will be noted.
I can set a double reminder on that too, just because I know, I mean, we all get kind of caught up on stuff too, so I'll send a double reminder on that.
I'll move to adjourn.
Have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks.